This week on Arizona Illustrated, capturing carbon, why we need it.
The CO2 problem is a waste management problem. You keep dumping it in the atmosphere and the bulk of it keeps piling up, and we need to figure out how to stop.
Pop cycle, recycle, reuse, refurbish.
We spent a lot of time when we were kids in Mexico, and it seemed like they always knew how to reinvent things, I guess, and to reuse. That maybe had a big influence.
And Tucson, World City of Gastronomy.
You know, people are just barely realizing what we do have to offer here. But for us, it's really nothing new. It's what we've cooked, it's what we had for our people.
Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. Scientists have issued grim warnings. We have a limited amount of time to cut our emission of carbon dioxide if we're to avoid the worst effects of climate change. AZPM science producer Vanessa Barchfield brings us the story of a team in Arizona working to find a solution by capturing carbon.
Climate change is already a problem, including the southwest US, where we've already observed warming of 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit or more. That's starting to affect ecosystems. We've got extreme heat waves, sea level rise, and then looking forward, we could see really devastating impacts. Loss of major ecosystems, disappearance of Arctic ice. At warming of 2 degrees, we'd lose all the tropical coral reefs. Tucson would start having a climate like Death Valley in the summer, which would be over 110 degrees. And of course, very serious threats to food security as well. What can we compare the climate change risk to? Major epidemics, things like the Great Plague that killed millions, the First World War, in terms of lives lost. I don't think it's as severe as meteorite impacts that destroyed the dinosaurs, but it certainly could have very devastating effects on the economy.
Now ask people, what kind of car do you drive? And they'll say, oh, well, I drive something. And I'll say, well, what kind of mileage does it get? And they'll say, oh, I don't know. I get 25 miles to the gallon. And I say, okay. And I hold this plastic bag up. And this bag has almost a pound of sand in it. And I say, that is the weight of the carbon dioxide gas that you put into the air from your car every single mile that you drive.
If that were sand falling out of the back of your car, people would be complaining. If it were smelly, people would have been complaining. Unfortunately, CO2 is colorless, odorless, and it just vanishes into the big atmosphere around us. It just has large consequences if you start doubling the CO2 which was in the atmosphere to begin with.
If we want to limit warming, we have to halve greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, and we need to have what's called net neutral emissions by 2050, which is that any greenhouse gases we emit would have to be compensated by capturing carbon.
The CO2 problem is a waste management problem. You keep dumping it in the atmosphere and the bulk of it keeps piling up. This is a cumulative problem, and we need to figure out how to stop.
I was the research engineer at the biosphere, and Klaus was a professor at Columbia at that point. And he would come through town periodically and breeze into my office, and we would talk for a half hour, and then he would take off and continue on his way, and I would take a nap, because you've talked to Klaus, you know what that's like. And at the time that Columbia University pulled out of the biosphere, Klaus and I decided to start a company in Tucson devoted towards understanding the possibilities of doing direct air capture of carbon dioxide. That's the removal of CO2 from the atmosphere.
We started to ask, where in the environment can you collect the CO2?
Whether air capture was technologically possible at a scale where it would make a difference to the climate, whether energetically it made sense, economically, would it possibly have a future, and just in general, what did it look like? You got to turn it on first.
First of all, we don't want to blow the air around and fan the air because that costs money we didn't need to pay. The wind is perfectly capable of delivering the CO2. Then we need surfaces on which the CO2 binds. This is a polypropylene sheet embedded into this are these polystyrene particles of the anion.
There were a couple of ahas along the way. One of them was, I'm sure Klaus has mentioned, the moisture swing phenomenon with this material we're working with. We have a filter, the resin material.
When it's dry, it really loves CO2, and if it's wet, it gives it back. This is the resin material. I can open this and give the plant access to this material, which has a lot of CO2 in it, and inside it is moist.
The beauty is that it's simple in conceptual operation. Put it outside, let it dry, pick up CO2, bring it in the box, make it wet, and gives it back off.
We stumbled into this at some level by dumb luck, but we worked on it and we found that this material can concentrate the CO2 100-fold, or put another way, remove 99% of all the air molecules which were in the way. You can put out about half a gram.
That was a game changer. That was where all the directions we had on this technology stopped and we turned left and we went that way.
1 unit of air only does 30.
Those are very exciting and very heady times. And that's when we sort of said, wow, this could be real. This is important stuff. Damn it, Klaus.
What do you mean?
I was excited when I heard they were moving to Arizona because I think that the technologies they're working on, the air capture and the other research, is a really important area of research.
Our solution is to pull CO2 directly out of the air using our artificial trees, which pull CO2 1,000 times faster than natural trees. So we recover the carbon, dispose of it, or recycle it into carbon-based raw materials and fuels. This is why
we have reached a point where we understand how it works, and now we have to engineer a real system, and that costs money.
Close to saturation, 22 part per.
I think in 2 years you have a machine which you look at and you say you could actually work. Then I think there's a 5-year stretch where you actually have to now move from having a technology which sort of works to actually mass producing it. That means you have to build up supply chains, put it all together, find out who can build that stuff, where's the factory which can do it, because in the end you have to make a lot of it.
That's the one I couldn't read. It's minutes or seconds makes a big difference.
This entire industry, this entire technology is just infantile in its maturity. So yeah, there are huge hurdles to overcome.
We are hindered on both sides. And on the one side, you have people to tell you that climate change is a hoax. On the other side, we are also getting hit head-on by the moral hazard argument, which says, well, if you do that, then people won't change their lifestyle because they think they have this way out. If you say, I want to solve the problem with lifestyle changes, and since 1980 we try to convince people to do that, and we still have failed to do that, maybe we should consider the possibility that we should throw other solutions at the problem as well.
We need the full portfolio of effort to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. Energy efficiency, moving to renewable energy, dietary changes, but then the longer term solutions, one would be carbon capture and storage, are the ones that are much more innovative and challenging.
The more I think about the scale of the problem, the more impressed I get with the scope of the work that we're attempting to do here.
What I want to say to them is, please develop this technology fast and cheaply, because if we've only got 12 years to reduce emissions by half, then we really have to get our act together.
One way to reduce our carbon footprint is by recycling, reusing, and refurbishing the material objects that we bring into our lives. PopCycle is one local vendor who's taken that approach to heart, bringing new life to abandoned items that might otherwise be considered junk.
It's so visually stimulating and really gets your creative mind going when you're looking at all the different things that somebody has thrown away and what you could make out of those things that would be useful or beautiful even. And then at the same time, you're looking at all of the things on the ground going, how much stuff are we gonna just throw away?
As I got into it, I started realizing, you know, what we as humans are doing to the environment.
Anything you can think of ends up out there. And so when I get there and I see everything, I try and come up with new ideas.
So he's looking for license plates so that he can cut up and make his signs. And then Jen is looking for seat belts that she can use to put on her bags. For me, I'm basically just looking for little pieces of something, some sort of like little piece.
It is fun. I really like diving in a car. I don't care if there's glass everywhere. I did learn to wear jeans and long sleeves, no matter how hot it is, and good shoes.
We spent a lot of time when we were kids in Mexico, and it seemed like they always knew how to reinvent things, I guess, and to reuse. And so I think that maybe had a big influence. I'm Dee Dee Kanan, and I'm one of the owners of PopCycle, and we also make things that we sell in our shop under the name Dee Dee Co. The owners are me and my sister Jennifer and my partner Shannon, but then we also sell my brother's wares.
I was thinking I would make a display. Oh yeah.
It's definitely a collaborative effort. I went to art school, and then I went and got my master's in Santa Barbara, and then came back to Tucson and thought it would be really easy to get a job in the arts in Tucson. And there weren't a lot of positions available, so I realized I was going to have to make something for myself. So I started making things, and then my sister had always been in the, she was a social worker, and then all of a sudden she started making stuff, and her stuff was so different than anything else I had ever seen. And it just kind of came out of the blue.
My name is Jennifer Adler, and I'm co-owner of PopCycle Shop. I'm also the creator of Monster Booty Threads. It takes some time to figure out what's going to work and what isn't going to work, and what will hold up, what will last over time. The seat belts are great because they're washable and they're really comfortable to carry and really sturdy and strong. It's good. For it, I thought it would be a great idea to have a recycled art space on 4th Avenue. I think that initially people thought, oh, it's going to be junk. It's a junk store, or it's a thrift store, or something like that kind of recycling. Not that it's something that's brand new and upcycled into something new from a recycled material.
My name is Levi Kanan, and I'm part of the family here at PopCycle. My sisters had their store, and they were doing some really cool stuff, and I just wanted to be a part of it. And I can't paint or draw you a picture to save my life, so I got into more of the tool and textile part. And Dee Dee and I came up with the idea to do the license plate signs. I can tell you what each little sliver that I use is from and the year that it was made and many things like that. I find myself every day looking at every license plate that I see. I am doing it for my living, and actually I have a couple employees that work for me now. I have 250 stores across the United States that sell them, and about 13 around the world. But I got my influence from my grandmother, who had a barn in Kingman where the side of her barn was covered with license plates.
This is my grandmother, Mamie, who lives in Kingman. She's the original junker. When we were kids, we'd go out with her in the middle of the desert, and we'd look for old bottles. So she collects bottles, metal, and she kind of just moves them around her yard, which was super fun when we were kids. You were like, okay, we're going to move the brick pile today.
Working with my brother and my sister, we have the same core ideas about things, I think. We can still collectively do the same activity, but find things interesting that appeal to our nature.
The whole group is kind of a group that doesn't plan. Everything we do is kind of just instinctual, and it's chaos, but at the same time it seems to work for us.
The requirement of selling in PopCycle is that it has to be at least 50% recycled or sustainable materials, and so it's really inspired not only us, but a lot of artists in town to see what they could do.
I love coming down to the store. I come in and there's always something new. There's always something cool that some new artist has brought in and has developed, and it's really fun to just see where people's mind get creative with stuff that needs to be recycled or should be recycled.
And it just seems like more fun. It seems like the item that you get that has been recycled in some way has its own energy, and so then you put your energy into it, and then it becomes something more than itself.
Mission Garden here at the base of A Mountain is a living chronicle of how Tucson's earliest inhabitants grew their food, going back about 4,000 years. Fast forward to 2015, and Tucson is named World City of Gastronomy by UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. It's the first city in the United States to receive this coveted culinary designation. But what does it really mean? And why Tucson?
When UNESCO named Tucson a World City of Gastronomy in 2015, at first glance, to some, it didn't seem quite right. Tucson has a lot of great local restaurants, but it doesn't even have the most James Beard award-winning chefs in Arizona, nor is it rated by the prestigious Michelin Guide.
People say, oh, I heard that Tucson got the designation, and I didn't know there were that many fancy restaurants in Tucson. The immediate response is like, oh my God, there is so much more than fancy restaurants in the meaning of this designation.
Maribel Alvarez helped put together Tucson's application for the designation. She explains it's important to understand the context of the word gastronomy.
In the European context, it's a much wider term. It's really equivalent to what we in folklore and anthropology will call food waste, which includes the whole set of practices around food.
When you look at the body of work around local food and around food heritage, clearly Tucson is a leader.
Most mayors speak highly of their cities. Mayor Rothschild is no exception. Some community leaders approached him about seeking the designation.
So the people that came to me were people that I had a lot of respect for. And after listening to them in their case, I said, yes, we should go for it.
So a case had to be made to UNESCO. Thinking about the entire food system of any major city is challenging. Where do you start? Well, for the purposes of this story, we'll start here, at the library.
This is an old card catalog that is getting reused as a seed catalog. As a public library service, we decided that the mission of our seed library is to make seeds available to everybody equally.
So anyone in Tucson with a library card can come and get 6 packs of seeds per month to grow their own food.
We did something different than anyone had ever done before by cataloging the seeds, just like they're a book or any item that you can check out at the library.
This innovative approach turned an idea into one of the largest seed libraries in the country, and it's a step closer to regional food security. This is something UNESCO looks at.
Since we started, we get calls and emails from all over the country, Canada, actually all over the world, asking for our advice on how to start a seed library. And this is an opportunity for everybody to contribute to our food security, to their own food security, to the region's food security, by creating this bank of seeds that is successful to grow here.
Food security is important to UNESCO. This also means access and affordability to food, hopefully healthy food for all.
The bigger the city you get to be in, and Tucson's getting to be a large city, food deserts are created, areas in the community where there really isn't fresh fruit and fresh vegetables close by.
Hello there, how are you? You look pretty today.
Well, we always worry about food. We're retired on fixed incomes. This goes a long ways to help.
This is Market on the Move, another grassroots nonprofit in Tucson. For only a $10 donation, anyone in Tucson can get 60 pounds of produce every week with no strings attached.
And it moves around, that's why it's called Market on the Move. It's to try and get the produce out to the people. We're actually rescuing this and trying to put usable, good produce in the hands of people.
From produce brokers in Rio Rico and Nogales, Pam Boyer and company get these fruits and vegetables that would otherwise go to the landfill and make them available to Tucson residents like the Platts.
This much in the store would be $50, $60 easily. And for 10 bucks, we can can it, store it, and freeze it. And it's excellent. Excellent. It helps out that way.
When you start to list all of the resources like this in Tucson, the list grows long quickly. We will not even get close to highlighting them all in this story. Tucson has integrative school gardens, mobile soup patrols, innovative culinary training programs like Caridad Community Kitchen. The Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona is recognized as a national leader. It even sponsors farmers markets, which brings us here to the Santa Cruz River Farmers Market held every Thursday. Here you can buy all kinds of regional foods directly from local farmers. Another Tucson innovation is that people in need can purchase all this with food stamps.
It's a really, really yummy, nutritious food that you can get for free in the desert right now.
Often you'll find another nonprofit here, Desert Harvesters, educating the community.
I'm really proud of the free food you can get on your own, the free food that's just growing everywhere. There is so much to eat here in this desert.
They teach people how to harvest, process, and prepare all kinds of local things you never knew you could eat. Today, Amy Valdez Schwem is teaching people how to harvest cholla buds.
And just give it a quick brush till the spines are gone. And then I'm going to pluck it with my tongs. And from here, I'm going to boil this for about 10 minutes. And then you can just put them on a screen and they'll maybe give them about a week to dry.
A short drive south, you find this being practiced on a much larger scale at the San Javier Co-op Farm, run by the Tohono O'odham. It's safe to say that without them, there would be no UNESCO designation for Tucson. They've been harvesting cholla in this region for a long, long time.
I have to say hundreds of years, thousands of years. You know, people are just barely realizing what we do have to offer here. But for us, it's really nothing new. It's what we've cooked, it's what we had for our people.
Ruby Rios is sorting through an ancient variety of bean that could also be the future of food production in the desert. The tepary bean is growing in popularity because it needs much less water than other legumes, can survive extreme weather, and has a high yield.
It doesn't surprise me, it just makes me feel good that we are reaching people not only within our community, but our surrounding community, that these are healthy products. They're all natural, and that they really taste good.
These beans are closely tied to the Tohono O'odham's ability to survive and cultivate in this desert. That history dates back over 4,100 years.
We're looking at Tucson's birthplace, where our city began as a small farming settlement on the banks of the Santa Cruz River more than 4,000 years ago. Tucson is the oldest continuously occupied settlement in the United States that has been archaeologically documented.
This is true. People have been living here and cultivating food longer than any other place in North America. In this historic location at the base of A Mountain, Mission Gardens was recently re-established. It was once the site of a Spanish colonial garden, and its mission is to interpret 4,000 years of Tucson agriculture.
every day, day after day, 365 days of the year, people have been living the depth of their cultural experiences with food in this region.
So all of these individual elements and many more we didn't have time to mention add up to Tucson being recognized as a world city of gastronomy, something Tucson's leaders feel was deserved, but also something they're using as a starting point for growth and conversation rather than an end.
Everybody loves food, and we can get people around the table and food brings them together. Start a conversation. You know, what are we going to do to improve this? To be more healthy, get rid of the diabetes, get rid of the obesity. And it's good too, you know, so.
And I was thrilled that they saw the richness of our culture here and everything that we had to offer. I guess I was surprised just because we don't get that much recognition all the time. Tucson kind of goes under the radar a lot.
We're not the biggest city, but we have a richer history than most cities.
So having this designation is something that we can market as a region, and we can market it for all sorts of reasons. Yes, our fine and unique restaurants, but also our native food culture, our local food culture, our farms, and we're doing that, and that's already having an impact.
These things were always here. They were always present, and only a few people knew about it. So now we have the opportunity to connect all the dots and raise a big sort of tent under which all of these things can be seen for what they are.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. Here's a sneak peek at a story we're working on.
So bring me what you have, please. My name is Don Myers and I'm a teacher. I think I really started to find myself as a teacher at Tucson High. The hard part about being Red for Ed is reading the comments. Most teachers I know are gonna take whatever little bit of a raise dwindles down from this whole thing and are gonna put it right back into their classroom. To buy that book, to get those pencils, to get that kid that doesn't have a backpack. It's not about the money for us, and I hate that it got twisted that way. It frustrates me, and it frustrates all of us.
I'm Tom McNamara. See you then.